All right, guys. Welcome back to the next episode of the Grand Prairie PD podcast. We are here with Courtney and Emily, and Katie as always.
Yeah.
We've been kind of goofing off for a while, so we're going to try to actually do this without
Yes.
giggling and making fun of each other.
Yeah.
Very professional.
We'll
Gonna
be
be
grown
professional.
for about an hour.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Not.
I feel good about it.
So I want to jump right in. I don't know which one of y'all's. I know technically you're in charge, but she says you're not. So
We'll let Emily go first.
okay, whoever wants to
Yeah.
kind of explain
Yeah.
the unit and what y'all actually do.
Sure. So we are the clinicians in the crisis support unit. It's a co-responder model. So we partner with a police officer, and that police officer is dedicated to us, and we go out and respond to calls for service that have a mental health component. And then we also have a follow-up component as well. So patrol has a way to clear a call or a report in a way that reflects mental health was involved, and that call or report will come to us in the morning so we can follow up with that individual. We're just assessing how they're doing and if they're in need of any resources. And so we'll triage to decide if it's a phone call, in-person follow-up. And we also have a wellness component to provide resources internally to first responders here at the police department. So right now we've got 5 members of the crisis support unit. Hopefully here in a bit we'll start expanding, so we're excited about that. And then this is our lovely crisis support supervisor.
Boss lady.
This is boss lady, but she's not your typical boss. She gets out there. She gets her hands dirty, and she's out running, steering the ship. So
I've seen these ladies out and they wear vests, so
we do wear
impressed.
vests.
I was going to ask, like,
Yep.
you talk about, excuse me, calls on patrol where you've got officers responding to incidences. Obviously, mental health cases tend to be super dangerous. How does that actually look, or how does that work with y'all going with patrol?
So our officers are really great at training us in situational awareness and knowing where to stand and just the overall safety that we need to be aware of. And they're also looking out for us as well. So it's a great partnership. We're pretty good at assessing what danger is potentially there, especially given what diagnosis we have and kind of what events led up to us being called out there. So we'll typically stand back until our officer or patrol feels that it's a safe enough scene for us to come up and start
Gotcha.
making contact. So that's how that works. But yes, we do wear the vests. We are outfitted with radios and know how to use them.
You're unarmed, though, correct?
Oh, yes. Very, very
Wait,
much correct.
No taser, mace.
Well, then we'd have to get tasered and maced, and I'm not
We're
really
not
trying
gonna
to...
do that.
It's a really good time.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to take your word for it. My husband, I actually, I love the video of him getting tased in the academy. I have it saved. I just, every now and then, I just kind of, just watch it.
It has like some mentally unwell vibes to it.
Well, I'm, if that's my one bugaboo, I think I'm all right, right?
That's right.
He
Yeah.
just doesn't do the dishes, and you just go sit on the couch and play.
No, it's when I'm doing the dishes and he's sitting on the couch watching football that I play it.
Got your AirPods in. He's like, "What podcast do you listen to?" Nothing. It's just him.
GP.
That's
All right,
awesome.
Runs.
Well, I think you stole all the thunder.
C Runs.
So,
Oh, you got plenty of thunder to give.
do I?
My thunder buddy.
We also do homeless. So that's the one component Emily forgot about.
What do you mean, do homeless?
So we assist our homeless population here in Grand Prairie.
Okay.
We work to figure out what those barriers are to homelessness, and we try to figure out what resources are going to be available to them. Should it be shelter or working with our housing department here, whatever it is they need. We attempt to coordinate that resource for them too. We're a plainclothes unit for multiple reasons. So you're talking about safety. That also helps, but also because we do follow-ups. People don't really want a marked patrol car in front of their house while we're knocking on doors, checking on you to see how you're doing. So
Right.
we go unmarked, plain clothes. Helps kind of bridge that gap as well. So,
Yeah.
I
Y'all-
forgot it-
assume you don't drive squad cars then.
No. There's been times when like we've had to follow to the hospital because our officer had to jump in a medic box, but I try as hard as I can not to drive that.
We prefer to be chaperoned. You know?
Yeah, people always kind of romanticize the whole policing, the uniform, the squad car, all that. And I always like my kids always, when I used to have a take home, they want to get in the back of it. It's like, no, God, no. Like, I don't even like to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Because, I know what has been on my uniform, and God knows what's been on other people's uniforms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then people talk about how, like, the patrol uniform, and it's like, no, it's not. It's disgusting.
That's like the most flammable fabric, I think. I mean, it's the
hope not.
opposite,
It's
maybe.
just hot.
But
it makes you
it's-
sweat and
Yeah.
stinks and the whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
The vest is hot too.
The vest is hot.
Yeah.
Now, you said you're married to a police officer.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Is he local, I assume?
Yeah,
Local-ish?
he's local. He's in narcotics now, so
Okay, cool.
he's undercover. So that's a lot of.
Did his occupation play into a little bit you getting into your field of work or no?
It kind of did. I
want you to tell us the story of
I
how you
will.
got in this.
I will. So I always plug my girl, our girl Leah, over at MHMR Law Liaison, because I saw her speak on the Law Liaison program at a domestic violence conference that I was attending when I was interning in my grad program, and my husband at the time was on patrol, and so I just thought, like, wow, that would be so cool. I love that. I didn't know it existed, and so from there on out, and she was wearing this really cute little outfit, and so that kind of sealed the deal for me.
Thanks, Leah.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. I think she had like khaki pants, was super cute. Anyway, so I just kind of started digging in, seeing what other programs were out nationally. I wrote a paper on it in grad school, and just started to kind of tailor my classes and internships towards more crisis-based work. So I would have some experience. It's different because you're certainly in a very, very acute situation when you are in the field with somebody who's in a state of crisis that officers are responding to.
Yeah.
So it's different from being in a controlled environment at like a psych hospital because you're just out in their environment. So there's a lot of different factors that play into that. But that's how that piqued my interest. My husband was not too big of a fan of the idea of it, but then once I got the job at Grand Prairie, he would start calling me, asking me to just type his narratives for him for emergency detention. So it played a...
Which for sure is a joke. He didn't actually do that.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Hypothetical.
Don't send an email because I'm not gonna respond.
So that was cool, but
She did get put in the no pile for
I did.
a couple of different rounds. She applied a
did.
couple different times, and I
Yeah.
put her in the no pile.
yeah,
Oh,
I was
you refused to
nixed.
hire her.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't have a license, and we were looking for a license at the time, so she got in the no pile. And
Oh,
then
that
somebody
That was my
like,
next question. It was like,
Yeah.
did she improve herself, or you
No.
just gave
Well,
up
we're
and-
still
We're still,
out.
Yeah, that's a work in progress. Over there. Yeah. Yeah.
We all get better every day.
That's it. That's it.
Somebody told us, hey, you should look into this girl, and I did, and the rest is history.
I got my license like 2 months after
Yeah.
that.
I thought
Okay.
she was gonna say, "I got my life together."
Yeah.
Sure, slide on that too, but yeah.
Now I've been told that you specifically have had some interesting extracurricular stuff in high school and college.
Yeah, how'd you become a social worker?
Well, so I danced. Okay, I was trained in ballet and modern and all of that
Oh,
Um,
okay.
form of
I heard
dance.
something else. I'm sorry.
Danced my whole life, and then I
Yeah.
got a BFA in dance,
Sorry.
So BFA.
Yeah.
Bachelor in Fine Arts.
Oh.
Yeah. So got that.
That's one of the Starbucks degrees.
Ah,
there you go.
yeah, absolutely. Barista, BFA. So I...
Not talking trash. I don't have a degree, so.
No, it's all right. It's okay. I didn't know what to do with it. So I kind of tore my ankle up, and I didn't really see much of a future my senior year because I was negligent with it and didn't rehab it the way I was supposed to. So that kind of shot a lot of my chances of actually doing anything with dance.
Were you performing or like practice or?
It was practice. I was performing. It was a dress rehearsal, if you will,
Okay.
at the ski team's house. one chilly Saturday evening.
I'm picking up on when she lies. So.
You have so many better stories. Don't forget to ask her about barrel racing. That's fine. She wears orthotics. So I tore my ankle up, kind of shot my chances. Did a few different.
No, I'm sorry. How did we tear our ankle?
So I was at the ski team's house. All right, they had a house just right off campus. Nice little Craftsman. So I went with some buddies and my boyfriend at the time, and we indulged in a few libations. And they had this like loft kind of situation in their living room, which as a performer, I saw an elevated surface, and naturally my instincts kicked in. So I performed, and it was to a jazzy little Chris Brown number. And well, my balance wasn't as up to speed as it normally was. So I fell off of that elevated surface and was carried by way of boyfriend at the time's back to the hospital. So then I danced on it. I was supposed to like be on crutches for a couple months rehabbing it, but I had a dance concert a couple weeks after that. So we just kept it moving, and it clicks and pops and does everything else under the sun to this day.
It's on and popping.
It's on and popping. It's on and popping. So I just kind of did a few random jobs. I actually was a flight attendant for American Airlines.
Oh, I thought you was going to say like Spirit or something. I want to hear some of these great stories.
There's...
No
it's
brawls?
just what you expect.
Yeah.
It's just, it wasn't.
I'm terrified of flying, so I'm amazed you're alive. So.
It wasn't for me. But one flight in particular, there was a woman on there, and her son was like in rehab, and she had flown out to drop him off at rehab, and she was flying back, and she was just, as you can imagine, pretty emotional, pretty upset, and kept going back and forth to the bathroom, and it was pretty obvious, like she was going through something. So she sat in the back jump
something
seat.
was going through her.
Yeah, well, that too. Don't eat the cheese platter. No, I'm kidding. So she just sat back on the jump seat with me, and we talked pretty much the whole flight. And after that, I was just like, you know what, I really, this seems like something that I would enjoy doing. So I applied for grad school probably like that same day, and got my master's in social work, and here we are.
Really? So you saw a lady that was upset on a flight?
That's what did it. I'm real flighty.
Come sit next to me.
When I'm
near the, what's it called, laboratory?
This is it.
Laboratories, yeah.
And let's talk.
Yeah, that's kind of what did it for me. I don't know.
That's awesome.
I'd always been interested in mental health, and that just, I was real tired of working as a flight attendant. I was like, well, I'll just give the government tons of my money.
Help people.
Apply for loans. So here we are.
Very cool.
Well, okay, so Courtney, how'd you get started?
So mine's not as exciting as Emily's, really.
More
I
sober.
disagree.
I was more sober when I started this career,
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not now, but I was when I started. I was real innocent when I started.
We all were.
We were. I'm the daughter of a bunch of helpers. So my mom's a nurse, my dad's a counselor, my brother's an attorney. So we're kind of destined to do that. Mm-hmm. But I was a nursing major and was not making very good grades.
And not very good grades for her were like B's.
Yeah.
If I can just throw that out there.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Bees, we were celebrating.
I thought I wanted to be a nurse, and then because my kiddos have been in and out of the hospitals, and then I looked at one of the basic courses, like not even nursing course, just a basic course. I was like, oh no, I'm way too stupid.
Yeah. I
Keep putting
mean,
people in jail.
it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Which is probably right. I'm the less dramatic version of the two of us, but I'm the studious one. So I went back. My parents were like, you're going to go to career counseling. So I did. And for some reason, I scored high in psychology and criminal justice. So I just took some classes and got to go to Rusk State Hospital and see the people there. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I want to jump into that. So I followed a psychologist at Tarrant County Jail who did the competency evals for people who were in jail who were determined to be incompetent to stand trial.
Okay.
And here I am, young, probably in my 20s, naive, had no idea what I was walking to.
You're not 20-something now?
I still am. I just continue to have my 20th birthday.
26.
Yeah. Yeah.
About now.
Yeah, forever. So yeah, we interviewed this guy. He comes in wearing this suicide smock. So it's this big white, thick suicide suit for everybody who doesn't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is interesting. And he pulled
Like a
out
straitjacket?
a straitjacket.
Okay.
You can't
But
say
it's-
that anymore.
Yeah, it's a
Suicide
smock.
suit.
She said smock, right?
Suicide or straitjacket's a bad thing now?
Term? Oh,
Kindler, gentler.
you're
Yeah.
right.
Everybody want a hug now?
Called a curvy jacket.
Yeah. So he pulls something out from in between his legs, and I was like, whoa,
Wait,
what's this? Yeah, hello. And
Very bad straitjacket.
Isn't there a shirt called Untuck It? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
good plug for them.
Yeah.
So it turns out that he saved the peanut butter from his lunch, and it was in a little Solo cup, and I guess he was warming it up. I'm not really sure what he was doing with it, but he pulled that out from in between his legs and then started talking, and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to see people who are acutely psychotic all day, every day. So I graduated and went and worked for a police department. I was a dispatcher for a while. Did that. And then actually law liaison, give them another plug, 'cause that's where I started. They were riding out with one of our officers. So I picked their brain. They hired me to work there, finished my degree. And at that time, we worked for all the law enforcement agencies in Tarrant County. So I got good experience with people out on the street. And went and worked for another department. I did a short stint at mental health hospitals, and that certainly was not for me. Something about the controlled environment, I'm not really sure. And so I...
What is it, just the lack of variety, or just because I hate being indoors?
Yeah. Mental health hospitals are it's just different.
Yeah.
It's just different. When you've gone from crisis work out on the street to more of a controlled environment where it's kind of groups all day and you see the same people all day, every day. And
More predictable?
more predictable. But in the same token, you don't really see them get better either. And you feel like you're in a treatment setting, so people should get better. So it just wasn't my thing. So I went back and did victims assistance for a couple years for 3 police departments. And then
What's that?
victims assistance. So we helped anybody who was a victim of a crime against a person. So homicide, sexual assault, domestic violence,
Okay.
robbery, all that good stuff. And found that there was a huge overlap actually in especially domestic violence and mental health. So we started to kind of pilot a program to look at both components and see if we could tackle not only the victim but also assess the offender. And if we could get the offender some treatment, maybe we could reduce the risk of domestic violence, which is a unique approach because we seem to be very victim-centered. So I did that, and then Grand Prairie created a mental health program.
Kudos to GP.
And they did. They actually met with my counterpart who worked for the cities I worked for. And so they plugged my name, and I applied, and here we are. 5 years later, Grand Prairie.
One of the best units in this department, hands down.
Thanks.
And I'm not saying it because you're sitting here, but I am.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll take it when we can get it.
All right, so I'm going to go back to, you said you worked at Rusk?
I didn't. I just got to visit Rusk State Hospital.
Was that not the coolest?
Super cool?
It's just different.
Yeah.
So from a kid from Little L Town, we used to think that was a spooky, eerie place, but you can go there not only for, like, if you're in trouble, but you can actually go there to get help. Is
You
that
can.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But Andrea Yates was there when I got to visit, so she's the one that drowned all of her kids.
Yeah, I remember that story.
So we got to visit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it true that there's some movies out about that place? I don't know. It could have been
No, there might be.
yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Because that place
Probably.
is real. It's like, I'm not going to say, known all around the world, but definitely
Yeah.
in Texas.
I
Everybody
think
knows
it's
about-
definitely in like documentaries because I
Yeah.
think there's a documentary out there about Yates in her case.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting to see.
Yeah. I
other
pass
side
by
of
it
mental
every
health.
time going home. I just
Yeah.
go over there and think about what's going on.
Yeah.
So now we just do the whole gamut. So now we do community-based and our internal officer wellness. So my officer wellness passion really came, I worked for, one of the cities I worked for was Euless PD. So I was there when Officer Hoffer was killed.
Yeah.
And so we kind of started the wellness initiative at that point because mental health was still a huge stigma at that point. Nobody really talked about it. And because I was victim's assistance at the time, I was thrown into the mix. But then being a licensed counselor, it just kind of took off. So I don't think Grand Prairie really thought we were going to hire for an internal wellness position when they hired me. And I didn't think they were either. But here we are.
Yeah.
You want to explain a little bit about what the internal wellness actually is?
Yeah, so we do, historically in this profession, it's been very suck it up, deal with it, go call to call. The things that officers and first responders see are really things that nobody should see and our brains can't really process through. So when I came and then Emily came shortly after, we really started to see the need to be able to have these conversations and to reduce the stigma in the first responder world. So by doing that, we have provided a lot of trainings to help our first responders understand the brain and understand how trauma stores in the brain. Because if you can help you guys understand the why, then it helps you to understand that maybe it's not you that's the problem. Maybe our brain does some things that we can't always control. So we do that part of it. And then, of course, they have access to the two of us being licensed clinicians. We can't be your therapist, but we can do peer support.
What's the difference?
What's the difference? So if we enter into a therapeutic relationship because we're coworkers, it's a dual relationship. So I can't be your therapist and be your friend. I can only be one or the other. So even though we're trained as therapists and we have that knowledge, we can provide you peer support, which means we might be able to see some things that are going on, talk about different coping skills, or maybe a different perspective on how to look at things, but we can't actually enter into that therapeutic relationship. So what we do is we have some good vetted resources that are culturally competent counselors so they understand this culture. So if it needs to go beyond peer support, we can send you to counselors and therapists who understand this culture. So you're not going in there having a conversation with somebody who doesn't get it,
Right.
Which we have found to be very helpful. We're pretty high utilizers of that here, which we're really proud of. So we offer that piece. If you need assistance with your family, you need resources for your family or your friends, we can provide that too.
Now, I know one question I know any cop who's listening is probably wondering. Obviously, when you have a relationship with a therapist, there's legal protections surrounding what you say. Does any of that apply to your role or no?
So it does. We're actually covered under the Health and Safety Code for confidentiality. All the peer support members are. And then, of course, Emily and I have licenses through the state of Texas, which covers some confidentiality. And really, in this department, our administration is extremely supportive, and so they honor confidentiality too. They don't ask any questions. They don't ask us if people have been to talk to us. They kind of respect that. Of course, there's limits to confidentiality, like we all have. I mean, if you come and tell me you're suicidal, we're going to have to do something, or if you tell me you're abusing kids. But short of any of the legal things that we have to report, everything gets confidential between the two of us.
Yeah. And I can speak because I've sat on her couch a couple of times. It's good. I think, a lot of cities / police departments should be pushing this way. If you're not, you're definitely behind the curve. Reach out to us. We can help you get started. But very, very important. So we talk all the time. The old mentality is what we were trained under. So it was, you go to this call, suck it up, next call, and it just takes a toll on you. And it takes a toll on you. And next thing you know, you're reading data like, hey, if you're in law enforcement, the divorce rate is 72%, or, you're more likely to be an alcoholic or something. So you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I tell people I'm an advocate for y'all. Go sit on the couch. I think we should start shirts. All right?
Let's do
Mark
it.
my word. Go sit on
like
the
it.
couch.
We do have a
Yeah.
couch down there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
is a
mean, I
good
think
one.
we have to talk about it. It's going to come out one way or another.
True.
So
There you go.
can either let it come out in a healthy way and have these conversations, or you can let it come out in anger in your relationships or with your kids or alcohol or, use of force. You name it, it's coming out. And so,
I think the importance is to strike a balance, because you get a lot of guys who are trained the way we are. And, we're not the best cops on the planet, but we've done, I think, a decent job in our careers. And so we look at the way we were trained and what we do. It's like, okay, well, obviously it works. Like I've been able to respond to all these things and take care of things. But then on the other side, you might not see some of the side effects with family and other relationships and habits and the negative. So I think part of where some things gets lost in translation is that people on y'all side view it through y'all's lens of, hey, we have to decompress and talk about this. Whereas we're like, not really, because we have a shooting and a bunch of family disturbances that are holding right now. We need to go and handle this. Yep. So I think there definitely needs to be some kind of, and I think this is what y'all are doing, is find some middle ground where it's like, okay, yeah, suck it up. That's fine. Suck it up. Knock this out. But then
come see me.
Come back. And
later.
I think the big thing is going to be showing that doesn't suck. Because if you feel terrible emotions or you deal with issues on a call, suck it up, deal with your call, move on, go home. I drive home. I don't want to talk about that again. Like, why I get sucked the first time? Why do I want for it to suck again?
Yeah, relive it.
Yeah, so I think getting through that will be a big part of it.
It's the right clinician too.
Yeah,
I mean, if you get the wrong clinician in here, we're going to lose the audience quickly. I mean, I think that's what we see too. People in our profession tend to be more touchy-feely, and I think that doesn't work for this population. We do have to understand. You got to suck it up. You got to deal with it. You got to get to the next call, and maybe you don't want to talk about it, but we can help you through it without you even having to talk about it. And I think that's the beautiful thing of all of this is you don't have to relive that whole incident for this to get off your chest. And you know what? You don't have to talk about everything. If it's working for you, let's keep doing it. But if it's not working, then let's figure out what we can do to make that better, work that off the plate a little bit.
Yeah. We're pretty big advocates of EMDR, which is a type of trauma therapy where it's different from your traditional kind of sit on the couch, talk the whole session, and after months, hope that there's some benefit there, and there is for some, and that works for some people. We think EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, it's a way for the brain to heal itself from the trauma that has, been presented. And it's very physiologically based, and it's done. It mimics REM sleep, so we have a way to mimic that, and your brain can actually reprocess that way and store away the memories appropriately so that it's not a traumatic, triggering experience.
So you can send me to sleep.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, we can send your brain into a state in which it is able
Help
to.
me now, baby. Help me now.
There we go.
Are we talking about hypnosis?
It sounds like it.
Yeah, it does. And for some certain populations, it can induce hypnosis, but there's a very specific protocol in working with that population. But it's great for officers and first responders because they feel far more comfortable going in knowing that, okay, it's my brain, it's physiological. I don't have to sit and divulge all of my feelings to somebody. Sure. I can let my brain do the work. So we have a lot of success in officers, first responders going and doing EMDR, and they see benefits very quickly in just a few sessions of doing it as opposed to, 6 months of talk therapy.
Yeah. Okay, so y'all are based out of this building, but do you help fire? Uh-oh.
Hopefully.
I struck a nerve. What happened?
So
firefighters don't deal with anything traumatic.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
It is a work in progress.
Okay.
We're not going to tell a first responder no, but because of the capacity, there's only Emily and myself right now.
Yeah.
We just don't have the capacity to take them on full time yet.
Okay,
but
gotcha.
we would like to eventually.
Yeah.
And we share in a lot of the same resources, and we work pretty closely with the peer support team on the fire side and bounce ideas and resources off of each other. And they've always been really effective at reaching out to us if they need anything. So.
Yeah. So after COVID, did you see an increase in utilizing some of the resources to help a lot more people, especially out on the street?
I came in during COVID,
so it's hard to say because we have seen an increase, but I can't say that it's because of COVID.
Yeah.
I feel like we've seen an increase because the word continues to spread and get out, and more people are talking about it. Okay. Because more people are talking about it, more people are trusting it, so more people are using it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a household thing around here. We hear people talk about mental health all the time, and we use one counseling agency a lot, And a lot of people see the same therapist, and so she's kind of become a household name around here. You see people high-fiving like, oh, yeah, I know Kim. You know Kim. I know Kim. And so it's been kind of funny now to see how everybody knows it, which I love. I love that y'all are talking about it and having these conversations and willing to see each other in the waiting room. And
because that's how it changes.
Yeah.
That's how the stigma breaks, is you guys pushing it out and sharing that experience. I mean, for a clinician, that's one thing, but that's why the peer process works, is you guys are in each other's shoes. You know what the experience is.
we're doing it in the academy, too.
Yeah.
You guys know that.
I tell officers all the time, it's like, now if you see somebody struggling and you don't say something, you are the damn problem. Like, period, point blank. If you watching somebody struggle and you don't say nothing, hell, you the problem too. So,
You can refer it to us confidentially. We're not going to go to somebody and say, hey, Katie's worried about you.
yeah, no, tell them.
Yeah.
Look, you can tell them. Put my name on it. I don't,
All right, let me use
Yeah.
somebody else for an example.
Well, you know, I
Katie
think
will
that
walk them down.
it's that confidentiality thing that I think is the main hang up for cops. It's the main hang up for me because at the end of the day, there are certain mental situations you can find yourself in that you do not need to continue to do this job.
Sure.
And when this job puts food on the table, that's a heavy subject to talk
decision.
about. But knowing there's a buffer between starting to talk to you and you run into my chain of command or the legal protections that we have. Because I was under the impression when I first heard about y'all, me just being the skeptical person that I am, I was like, but nope, 'cause you're not a therapist. And I was like, there's not going to be any kind of protections.
Yeah.
And after talking to some people, I realized that wasn't the case.
I always like to ask people, so who do you know that's using the program? And you guys only know the people that are using the program because those people have told you, not because we've told you. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you know they're using it? Well, they told me. Oh, okay.
because KD said it on
Right.
podcast.
Oh, okay. So confidentiality is working.
Yeah.
And, you know, we do have, when you talk about things that can hurt the job, we have ways to actually protect that. And that's what we try to get people to understand is it's like, we could actually probably protect your job more than you could. And we haven't had anybody come to us yet that's wanted help that has lost their job.
Yeah.
So go into that a little bit. What are you talking about?
So, I mean, if somebody had an alcohol problem and you came and said, hey, I have a drinking problem, when we got you into 30-day rehab, before you got a DWI, before you got a use of force incident, before any of those things happened, we have the ability to do that. And our police chief is completely supportive of if you need to go into rehab for something like that and you need to be off for 30 days so we can take care of you, then we're going to do that. We also have the state of Texas pass a law that says we have to have mental health leave for first responders. So post-critical incident, if you're struggling, we have the ability to potentially put you off for a couple of days. It comes out of a separate leave bank so that you can go to counseling and do the things you need to do to get yourself back on track so that you can get, back to work. The theory behind that, too, is if I make you use all your sick time or your vacation time to go take care of yourself,
There you go.
Right.
and then in 6 months, you need to take a vacation to keep your mental health up, but you've used all of it to take care of yourself. Well, it's counterintuitive. So
Right.
if we can take some out of the leave bank, and there are certain stipulations that have to be met. Not everybody can get mental health leave. But if you do meet that criterion, we can provide that for you. Then
Is that only
we'll
for
do that.
GP or is that, you said the state?
It's a statewide. Everybody has their own policy, but the state came
okay.
down with a
Yeah.
a mandate that we have to offer it post-critical incident.
That's
Who
freaking
decides what
awesome.
a critical incident is?
Some lawmaker and
So they've listed out certain things as critical incidents. So officer-involved shooting, line of duty death, child death, the things that most of us would consider a critical incident. But the other piece to that is secondary trauma. So vicarious trauma is that trauma we experience through the eyes and ears of people that we serve. And that cumulative effect is actually almost worse a lot of times than an actual critical incident itself because it's that whole pebbles in a backpack scenario. Once you have enough pebbles in your backpack, the last one's the one that sent you over the edge. And maybe that call wasn't the worst call you've ever been on, but that was the call that sent you to that place. So our human resources has given us the autonomy if it's a critical incident and if it's, something of that nature, we could potentially use that for mental health leave. So they trust Emily and I. They've placed a lot of trust in us to
That's freaking awesome.
use it appropriately.
Everybody should be reaching out to you.
They should
like
be.
all the cities. Okay, so they reach out to me
I
for
was-
like bike stuff. they should reach out to
They
y'all.
do.
They
They
should reach out
do.
to you.
We do a lot of critical incident debriefings for a lot of agencies
Okay,
around
good.
here.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, we're farmed out quite a bit.
Yeah.
I was thinking about reaching out to you just now, actually. I was like, man,
Come on, let's talk
how
about
much
it
does
right
it cost
now.
to get a caseload designated as critical?
Oh. Good try, not going to
Give
happen,
me
my
3
friend.
days. I'll sit on
And
the
that's
couch.
why we can't abuse the system.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, how we change
Uh,
things.
That's why I'm not going to be the unit.
Be the new Nate rule. Can't do that.
The Nate rule. I love it.
I did want to. I had some somewhat personal questions, if y'all don't mind.
Sure.
I noticed when we were talking earlier a couple of things. Like you talked about your husband being law enforcement and whatnot. What are y'all's fights like as a couple?
Well, it's different now that we have a kid. That just
Like
adds
more
a
often
level.
or quieter? Or?
quieter, yeah. Me coming into this field, our arguments have changed quite a lot.
Sure.
I had a very hard time when I was in grad school and I was, working at domestic violence resource centers, and I was in all of these mental health classes, and hearing and knowing what he did, I was very much like, how could you be okay? You can't be okay. You just saw that. We need to sit down and talk about it. And that was just like poking the bear.
Right.
And now me being in this position, I see very much that he has a process, and I know and I trust that when he needs to talk or he wants to talk, he knows I'm there to listen. But I'm very much not poking and prodding the way I used to. With that being said, if I see that, hey, you know what, you've been real quiet, you're biting your nails a lot, you seem anxious, like what's going on? Let's talk. He also has the ability to kind of face that and talk with me. But I mean, outside of that, we're pretty much on the same page with a lot of things, and he understands that now. I kind of come with a little bit of vicarious trauma myself and
Sure.
doing what I do. So he's a great support system in that regard. But I think too, now when we're home. And that home is such a safe place for both of us because of the things we see and do in our day to day. And so our level of understanding of, hey, we're home. Let's turn off the TV. Like, let's talk, or let's be present with each other.
How old's your kiddo?
He'll be 1 on Monday, next Monday.
very nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've got 4 that are a lot older than 1, and home is where I sit in the driveway and go,
Yeah.
I'm off work now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I think, he's certainly had a lot of experience and growing, and as being a patrol officer and seeing the things he saw, and now being undercover, that comes with its stuff. So he's a lot more aware of what he needs to do to turn that off when he's home, because he knows that he lives with a counselor. So
Does he ever try to turn it around on you? Like if you start getting upset during discussion, he's like,
not
"Oh, you're
anymore.
doing whatever I picked up."
Reverse psychology.
when I was in grad school, yeah, because it was so clearly not comfortable to me that he could be like, "All right, what chapter are you reading?
Right.
Like, this is new. This is not like what are you what theory are you using right now?" But now I think I can do it in a much more low key way while I'm still having him walk through trauma with his 5 senses. So he's not as in tune, because I try and be a little bit more sneaky.
That's what I was gonna say. You're just.
Just
It's not
better
that
at
y'all
it.
developed. You're just more deceptive.
Yeah.
So do you ever feel like you're not getting off work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have an on-call component too. So if patrol is out and they're on a call that they, it's pretty gray and they need help articulating, they have the ability to call Courtney and I. So we switch weekly, but we both just keep our phones on us because no one really knows the on-call schedule. So
But if you get called in, do you have to come in with an officer?
no,
Oh.
so it's just by phone. Now, if there's like a negotiation situation or like an officer involved situation, a major critical incident, then we have and do try to come in for that so that we are giving appropriate response times. Courtney is our go-to on all negotiations because she's a trained hostage negotiator too. She's really
very
important,
cool.
guys. She's very important. She sits in the bus. She wears headphones. I want to be Courtney Reynolds when I grow up.
She's
Sorry, I
listening like
said
the
your
movies.
last name.
He's lying.
But yeah, I think too, and then if you turn on the TV, there's just everything is mental health right now. And I get it as it should be, but it's my own personal responsibility to turn off and do what I need to do to make sure I can stay off.
Do you ever feel that mental health gets used as a bit of a scapegoat?
It does. It does. I think we're in this really weird position right now where I think there's more awareness to mental health, which is why we talk about it more. But then I also think it's become a buzzword, and so people are using it as a way to explain away bad decisions.
Right.
And so what's the answer? I don't really know.
I know as cops, we have a habit of being cynical, but if, when someone does something and then the news is talking about how, we need to up our mental health support, and it's like, hey, he's arrested 27 times before this happened. I mean, maybe we do, but also maybe this person is just
Accountability.
not a great guy.
Yeah. I think it's all the above.
Yeah.
Because we definitely, I mean, we're lacking adequate resources to fill the need that communities have. I mean, you're looking at
What does that mean? Because we always hear resources like that's a
yeah. So
term
you've
everyone
got
throws around.
like your mental health authorities, right? Those have different clinics and branches and things that serve communities. And the reality is you have caseworkers that have crazy long caseloads, and that's just one person to resource that individual who have pretty complex needs. And so you see a lot of wait times and turnover rates because those caseloads are just so large for that one individual. So I think the continuity of care is a struggle in someone getting some good follow through at within their mental health treatment plans. So I think with that comes difficulty just staying compliant with medication, staying compliant with going to your follow-ups. If you see a different therapist every single time, that's really hard to build rapport and make progress, because the number
was
one
my question.
thing we know in treatment is the trust that you have in your provider. And if you don't have that, that can be a major barrier to follow through in your own treatment plan.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that is you have the autonomy as the client to follow up and to advocate for yourself and what you need. So it's a double-edged sword there.
Right. Because y'all have, or I guess the mental health community in general kind of has a model like what we follow, where an officer responds, writes a report, sends it off, then it goes to somebody like me who's going to investigate and go forward from there. And then depending on how it goes with me, it may or may not go to the county where you're dealing with some of the person there. It's kind of, it seems like there's some parallels there where someone might deal with y'all and then has to talk to somebody else, and the odds of getting somebody who you don't click with in there, I assume, increases every time you involve somebody else.
Yeah, and wait times. I
Right.
think you've got to look at really high wait times too. So if somebody needs to get into a treatment provider and you have to wait 6 months, that's not going to be
Right.
helpful in trying to get somebody stabilized on their medication. Or they go to the hospital, they get stabilized, they're there for 3 days, they get out, now they have to wait 2 more months to see a treatment provider. You're going
Right.
to see the same revolving door.
What's the
Insert crisis support.
I don't know what the answer is. I think more funding.
Texas is really low in their mental health funding too. So we don't throw a lot of money at mental health in Texas. We're like 47, 48. We're low.
Wow.
Mhm.
No way.
Yeah.
That's weird. There's a lot of crazy people.
That's why officers are becoming your new de facto social workers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why
Yeah.
it's falling back to you guys. So,
We're everything though. We're
yeah.
Yeah, you are.
You are.
clinicians,
lot of
and
hats.
vets, counselors.
Chief medical advisor.
I am not a vet.
I'm an automotive guy. Hey, sir, can you help me change the battery? Hell no. What am I gonna do?
People call us for
Are you a good cop?
too.
Yeah. Not when it comes to that. No.
That kind of somewhat brings me to the question I had for you here, and you talked about your story earlier. Obviously, whenever you were talking, it made me wonder kind of how your marriage dynamic worked with your altercations. That's
Yeah, don't
a
say
cop word.
altercations because nobody's going to jail.
disagreements, I guess. Me and my wife don't hit each other. Well, I don't hit her. What is just your personal life in general like? Because you got motivated to do this job by a guy with
It's a
peanut butter.
great
in his pants.
question.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious,
Peanut
like,
butter
just,
pants.
what are you into in general? Because I'm intimidated, honestly, sitting
Yeah?
across from you. I get like a silence of the lamb, sort of.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that face too.
Put the lotion
Hey,
in
real
the
quick,
basket.
if she
Yeah.
doesn't mention barrel racing, just don't forget to ask her about
All right.
the barrel racing.
Yeah.
Peanut butter and barrel.
What about barrel racing?
What about barrel racing? So I grew up barrel racing. I was a very shy kid and grew up doing a lot of things, but I was a barrel racer. So what Emily is trying to reference is after I've been doing this job for a while, I was hanging out with some fellow law enforcement friends, and we were using really good coping skills and had a lot to drink. So I decided,
Really a trend here.
it's weird. Yeah. So I decided to show off my barrel racing skills, but I was the horse running around
Wait.
makeshift barrels in the living room of somebody's house. And I twisted my ankle, broke my foot, and had to be in a walking boot for 6 weeks. And that was Emily. That was Emily, by the way, not me that snorted. So I now, in my older age, at 26, am having some residual problems from my barrel racing injury. And
She
I
wears
have
orthotics.
orthotics
Okay.
in my shoes.
Well, I was going to say, so I work out with her. You
Yeah.
would not be able to tell. But there's
Yeah.
something with this unit and ankles. I won't get the other officers in here.
Yeah.
We want to hear their stories.
So
too.
that's what that is. So that's my barrel racing story. But my life now is interesting. I'm married to my prom date. We reconnected after 20 years.
That's
It's a
awesome.
sweet story.
She slid into that DM.
I sure did. That's
what she
sure
did.
I might have had a couple
That's,
of
What's a
drinks.
DM?
direct message.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I was like, oh, hey, look at you. So yeah,
That's a weird message.
that's pretty much what he said. Yeah. I might have had a couple of drinks that morning. I don't know. It's weird, but
I
yeah.
might actually have to come talk to y'all because I swear to God,
We're a
either one of y'all call me an
blast.
alcoholic, like, nah.
I've heard your story.
We're an absolute blast.
I do have a question before we move on,
Yeah.
though. What did you use as the barrels?
It's a great question.
I think it was pillows from the couch.
Hell
It's a little fuzzy.
yeah.
How many people were in attendance?
At
was
this
a
event. It
whole
wasn't a
rest-
paid
I swear
event.
to God, if you say just yourself.
No. Yeah, I'm like videotaping myself. No, there was 5 or 6
was
of us.
TikToking,
It was
that's
several
right.
couples. Yeah, and I mean, one of them might be a therapist now too. It's fine.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. A very well-known therapist around here. But yeah, so it was a good event.
Did you have someone on your back?
No, when you're a professional.
Well, don't say no. Like
Yeah,
the
that's what you
horses
do.
don't do the barrels by themselves.
Well,
they have
this
somebody
horse
that's on-
did.
You just referred to yourself as a horse.
This horse did.
I think maybe next time you should have somebody on your back. To show
We
you
might
where to
have
go.
been. That's
you got
it.
broken.
I'm a better horse rider than I am being a horse. Is the moral of the story. So
That's something to take home.
this is my horses are 4 legs and not 2. So anyway, here we are.
Awesome.
So I was a barrel racer, and my 3-year-old daughter is now learning how
Oh,
to
very
barrel
cool.
race. I'm super pumped about that. But yeah. So anyway, I'm married to my prom date. He's a home inspector, so he doesn't have anything to do with this line of work. So it's interesting at our house.
Yeah.
Right.
Very interesting. I never get to turn off. That is one of the things that's problematic. But I'm never off
Just
call.
By, okay, that's what I meant. So by
Yeah.
nature of the employment, or just kind of, cause like as cops, we kind of say we can't ever not be
Yeah.
cops because
Yeah.
you're in public and you're just looking at
Yeah.
people like
Yeah.
you just stole something or you have a gun on you or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it?
I get called a lot, which is a good problem, right? It's a problem that we have created, which is positive because I feel like I've gained a lot of trust. We've gained a lot of trust. And so I get called by a lot of officers just wanting to talk or need something with their family or whatever the case is. But because of that, too, it's become a little bit overwhelming because I tried to take off a couple weeks ago for a mental health day. I tried to practice what I preach, but I got called all day that day. So we're working through that. That's probably one of the downsides to what we have going on right now. We've expanded beyond our capacity, so we're trying to hire hopefully another clinician and look at restructuring maybe down the road. We'll see what that looks like. I've got grand plans, but I got to keep those to myself.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How long do you think it'll be until she's trustworthy enough to cover for you?
She's 100% trustworthy enough to cover for me. We've just got to get you guys to trust her to call her instead of just me.
Gotcha.
She's there.
Look, go ahead and put her cell phone out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Any and every briefing or any chance I'm in front of a large group, I make people save my number.
So one thing we always kind of ask people, or usually they're police officers, is like embarrassing stories, which I guess if you can embarrass yourself, that's fine.
I mean, I've barrel raced.
Yeah. You should be embarrassed, yes.
Yeah, clearly.
But in the professional realm, and not necessarily just embarrassing, but just I imagine that because y'all see the calls that we have to deal with every once.
That's Emily snorting.
There's no pig in here,
No,
ladies and gentlemen.
There's cameras now, so
Sorry.
everyone knows.
Yeah, I think I know.
Tell yours.
I can't.
She can't talk right now.
You
She's
just write it
crying.
down and we'll read it.
Yeah, she's crying.
What story are you thinking?
I'll tell it, but I know it'll probably get cut.
That's fine.
Okay, so I was a baby clinician working at a crisis unit, and I had just in one of my mental health diagnostic classes. There's a symptom of thought disorder. You see it with schizophrenia and different psychotic disorders. It's tangential. Tangential thought is someone who is steering completely off topic and never quite comes back to what the original topic was. So you're talking to them, you're asking them a question, and they're going way off to left field and never come back to the question you initially asked or the topic of what that was. Yes.
I do that.
We
all
know.
the time.
No, I'm kidding. So tangential. So I'm in, I'm in this inpatient setting, and I got these symptoms and these big words. I'm going to use them. And the clinical, she was like a clinical director, and she'd come in and she'd essentially do spot checks of the employees there. I'm talking to her, and I'm feeling really good using these big words. And I said tangential. And I immediately knew what happened and what came out of my mouth. And I wanted to just die. Just then and there, I wanted to die. And it was one of those things do I just address what happened, or do I just keep going? And I just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they bring it up, you just say, "Well, you're the crazy one."
It was one of the. It was terrible. It was just terrible.
I can't think of a story. Do you have a story on what we've gotten into? I can't think of a story. I mean,
we
get into more weird stuff than funny stuff.
Well, so that's what I was gonna say.
She's killing me.
That's what I was gonna say.
See why she was in the no pile? Look at this.
Snorters.
She came to her interview in this really cute little cardigan that she swears wasn't
I
a
was
cardigan.
not wearing a cardigan. I was wearing loafers. God.
I thought she was really innocent. And then,
Those aren't even related.
Look, I'm about to say, is it corduroy or something?
I was wearing a sweater.
Was it
wasn't
turtleneck?
No, it wasn't a turtleneck sweater.
it wasn't one of those nights.
No, it wasn't. And I was wearing loafers, and they told me, she told me dress business casual for my ride out. So I dressed business casual. I'm wearing jeans, nice jeans, loafers, and a sweater. And she's over here giving me, all sorts of little attitude because I wasn't wearing tennis shoes. I was wearing loafers. I was like, listen, these loafers are made for speed, all right? And I think that's kind of what just sealed the deal. And then I didn't snort for a couple of months, made it past probation, and it all just came out.
She is a unicorn. We are lucky to have her. That is for sure. I don't really have a good funny story, though. We do a lot of
So
hoarding
doesn't have to be
houses.
funny. So that's what I was gonna
Gross.
say. Yeah, just because y'all go to the calls that we
Yeah.
are kind of the ones that we look at. We're like,
Oh, we're going to
like,
clear
why
that
does
image.
dispatch hate me?
Yeah.
Whereas y'all just do nothing
Yeah.
but that. So like,
Yeah.
I imagine you have a lot of
We went
weird,
to
gross.
another city I worked for. We had a hoarding task force, and so we would go out with law enforcement, clinicians, adult protective services, animal control, all that good stuff. And we had a house of a guy who had a colostomy bag, and there was trails. There really weren't trails to go to his house, but we climbed in with our suits on and our respirators because the smell was so overwhelming. But he had buckets throughout his house that he was emptying his colostomy bag in, and there was floaters in the buckets and all kinds of things in the buckets. And so there's always one poor soul dog that when you open the door, it runs free and you just kind of let it go. But yeah, he,
Is that legal?
I mean,
It is today.
yeah, if you can't catch it, you can't catch it. I mean, what are we going to do, you know? So anyway, we did a lot of that where there was one time. So we went into one hoarder house, and that was back before we dressed in polos and jeans. So I went in with my sweet pants on and my high-heeled shoes and business
Cardigan.
casual. I never wore a cardigan. I was never that innocent. But he was supposedly had 100 guns in this house. And so when we walked in, there was stuff all over the floor. And I looked down, and I thought I saw a snake. And so I beat feet out of the house. And it was just it was really just one of the things from a mop. Like, you know, I mean, I wouldn't expect to see a mop in this house. So
little-
that's why I was
yeah.
confused. But, you know, one of the old school rope
It
mops.
was a snake.
Is
But I did
that
think it was a snake.
when you got that infection in your
I did get a
nose?
fungus in my nose from a hoarding house and had to have sinus surgery.
What?
That's a story.
It's a real thing. Hmm.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I mean, so I just was having a lot of sinus problems and nobody could figure it out. So I had to go to a specialist.
How'd they connect it to the house?
Well, because
She's not in any other situations where she would get a sinus infection except for a hoarding
I feel like
house.
people get sinus infection.
well, no, I had sinus infection, but when he had like this fancy machine, and so I had to do all these CAT scans, and they found out that I had a fungus in my nose, and they related it back to the hoarding houses I've been to. I picked up some rare fungus, and so I'd have nasal surgery, and they had to like go in and clean out my sinuses and do some repairs. So it's good. We're here to help.
Nah.
We're
Nah.
here to help you guys.
I'm glad y'all like your jobs.
Yeah.
I don't really do hoarding houses very much anymore. We pass those down the line.
Yeah.
To us.
We just try not to bring home stuff to the babies.
Yeah, we do try to bring
That's
stuff
kind
to
of our
baby.
biggest. We really try to stay free.
And we're not talking about the husbands. We're talking about the
Yeah.
actual kiddos.
Right.
our real babies.
We don't appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, he'll be okay. Take some Tylenol. You'll be okay.
A little Neosporin and a Band-Aid at our house.
Yeah.
That clears up everything, according to my husband.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, I think we're about wrapping up.
Yeah.
I guess I want to give y'all just a minute to kind of have the floor, I guess. If there's anything you want to say to people who might be listening as far as potential officers, guys who've been doing the job, people who are just loosely interested in, or even just civilians who like to hear about the job and what we all do, but might not do it. What do y'all have to say?
I mean, to me personally, it's a huge honor to work with law enforcement. I consider that a privilege every day, and I'm not just saying that because I'm here. I truly feel that and believe that. And to have law enforcement trust clinicians and to allow clinicians to be embedded in your world and to be willing to even sit down and have these conversations and not just avoid us because, oh my gosh, there's the counselor. She's must be analyzing me. But to really sit down and say, yeah, I'm struggling here, or yeah, that call bothered me there, or could you, offer a resource for my family? To me, that is the highest honor I could ever have. And so I would say to anybody that's listening to thinking about going into this career, it is an honorable career, But I think it's a career where you see things and experience things you're not supposed to. And so I would say just be open to that, be open to these conversations, be open to helping each other walk through that if you need to, but not be afraid to reach out for help. But I think it also comes down to helping each other. You know, we've talked a lot about what we do to help our first responders, and we've done a lot of joking today, but in all honesty, I mean, she's my greatest asset. You know, we look out for each other. We take care of each other. She tries to make me take mental health days. You know, we try to, because somebody's got to counsel the counselor. And so,
Right.
you know, we also have to practice what we preach and try not to bring it home too, because my husband doesn't do this line of work, and it's not fair for me to bring it home to him and to the kiddo.
Right.
So I think that's what I would say is just take care of yourself and take care of each other.
Mhm.
What nuggets do you have?
Yeah, you-
Curious. Sorry,
Go ahead.
unless you already have something in mind.
Nope.
Not anymore.
I believe you. I'm curious if you would speak to people who might want to get into y'all's line of work.
Yeah. I would say do everything you can to gain crisis experience, and anything where you're going to be working with severe and persistent mental illness. So hospitals are great. Getting out and riding out with police departments is also huge, because there's one thing to read the job description on paper, but then to actually get in a car and see what that experience is like is very different.
Right.
I would say for any clinician interested, do those things, but also come in with an understanding that you're going to have to work to gain trust, and that may take time and that may take a lot of patience. And there's kind of that fine line of I'm the professional in this area, but I also need to be relatable and have officers trust me as a person, because that can be a big barrier and loop to jump through. Because at the end of the day, we are here to absolutely serve our community. We're also absolutely here to protect our officers in any way that we can by offering our clinical knowledge. If what I can bring to the table to help verbally de-escalate is going to keep that officer with me also safe, that to me is my biggest priority. Now, maybe I'm biased because I'm an officer, I'm married to an officer, but that for me was one of the most important aspects of this job, and what I talked about in the interview initially with Courtney is whatever I can do to serve this community and to keep that officer safe is my number one priority.
Absolutely. I like it.
Well, we appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Sitting down. Appreciate y'all being willing to be on camera. I know it's
Hey,
still a new thing.
anytime Courtney is happy to
know.
jump on
I love
a camera, so
I don't know about y'all, but I realize how hard it is not to yawn.
Really?
Yeah, I've just had like
Are we that
400
boring?
I was
No,
thinking
so I had like 400 milligrams of caffeine
I
right
thought this
before I
felt
sat
really
down.
good.
Me too.
maybe you could
And-
do some EMDR. Maybe you're just not sleeping good.
Oh, I'm 100% not sleeping good.
I have some candy
It's
in my
100%
pocket.
because of a 6-month-old.
Yeah, we understand.
Baby wise.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
baby wise. We love baby wise.
Ask Josh about it, her husband. He's on page 2.
She's 3. It's fine.
We'll get
A
there.
reader, eh?
It was his, do you want a candy?
All right, guys. We appreciate y'all coming in. We're going to go ahead and end it.
Okay.
So, till next time.
Till next time.